Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for our Married to Medicine Season 11 Reunion Part 1 recap. This is definitely going to be a recap when it comes to the reunion shows. There is a lot that I probably leave out because it's a bunch of the same stuff that we've already heard before. If there's something that's mentioned that I didn't mention that you want to talk about, I hope that makes sense because it didn't make sense just now when it came out. What am I trying to say? If there's something that I leave out that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. So go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we jump into this. So we begin the reunion with all of the ladies arriving on set. It's early in the morning, and I can already tell where some of the issues are going to be. For example, Toya, because she feels a way about some of the things that T has been saying on the internet, which is interesting because we know that Heavenly has been saying things for many, many seasons on the internet as well. So I guess Sweet T says, well, if Heavenly can do it, so can I. So we got Quad, who's claiming that she's not worried about King being on stage with Dr. Little because, unlike the others, the exes, King can control himself. Now, Quad, I like you majority of the time, but you can't make statements like that when we have seen this season that that King, that Dr. Little, that T have issues with control. We're not going to sit here and rewrite history now. We're going to call things the way that they were seen. So you got Heavenly talking to Andy, and Heavenly is in delusional land because she thinks that this should be a good reunion for her because she doesn't have any problems with anyone. While when Andy makes that comment to Contessa is laughing because she begs to differ. So all the ladies come out on the stage with the exception of Dr. Mimi. She's not in this first segment. I just have her up here in the picture because this is the picture that they had of the ladies, right? Um, so T is told that Quad is still in her dressing room, and T wants to make sure that she waits because she wants to be the last one to arrive. I felt like that was a little corny. I guess she was trying to make a grand entrance, but in order to make a grand entrance, she would have to have something better on than what she had on. I think that out of all of the ladies, my favorite outfit was Quad's. I really like what Toya has on, but it's just too much. Like look at how far the ladies have to stand from her when they take this picture. It's just too much. Jackie, basic to me. Simone, a mess. Dr. Heavenly, I hate the choker. Dr. Mimi, you look nice. Yeah, you look nice. I'm not really sure about the shoulders, but you look nice. Contessa looked nice too. I actually like the dress better standing up than sitting down because sitting down, she has like a mini skirt on. So that's, how I feel about these things. So the ladies look great for the most part on what they have is they're calling it a Bridgerton inspired garden set. I already talked about Toya's dress. In Toya's words, her dress is creating its own environment and blocking out everyone else's. Um, Andy welcomes Contessa back. She's asked if she watched the last season, and she said that she did, and she was glad that she wasn't on it. Andy talks about how one of the ladies is missing, and we know that he's talking about Phaedra, Miss Fei herself. She was invited, but she decided not to come. Toya says that she did call her and ask her to come, but Phaedra says she wouldn't be helping this show for Ish. The ladies laugh at that. We find out that she is still in contact, Phaedra is, with T, Contessa, and Toya. We then get shown an unseen clip of Phaedra saying that she didn't really enjoy this group, that the ladies on this show are demonic and they're trash and they're hateful and they're jealous and they're angry black women that make fun of other women because they don't look good. So when she says these bees, those are the type of bees that she's talking about. Toya hears this and says, it's terrible that she said all of that because we welcomed her with open arms, and they did. We have been watching this show long enough to see that out of a lot of people that have come to this show and actually been like a holder, a peach holder, that well, no, with Married to Medicine, it's not a peach, but out of all the people that are in the main cast photo, we'll say that Phaedra actually was really, she got one of the easiest entrances for a newbie that we've seen in a long time. So Dr. Simone's like, oh, she called us trash, but none of us have done the things that she used to do. Here's the problem that I have with these ladies. Don't bring that up now. Once again, you guys were okay with her past and what she did to Candy and others because you thought it would bring up ratings, much like you were okay with Dr. Little coming back on this show, or as Sultan's mama calls him, Squeaks. Is it Squeaks or Squeaky? You were fine with him coming back on the show. So Heavenly says, I think the issue with Phaedra was that she tried to play with Apollo and she got played. She says, I'm going to break the fourth wall here. Phaedra knew that Apollo wanted to be on TV. She knew that he wanted to be on the show. I talked to her about it. She was the one who said, that he could come, that it would be a surprise. Most of the cast think that she invited Check to get under Apollo's skin. I said this before and I'll say it again. I don't blame Phaedra and I don't even like Phaedra. Here's the thing. She did invite that man to get under her ex-husband's skin. But understand that Apollo did the same thing when he decided to invite Shireen. Shireen is not just his now wife or soon to be ex-wife. Shireen is the person that he cheated on his wife with while she was pregnant with their child. You don't think that he didn't do that on purpose? That's the part that I don't like. These ladies are so male identifying. They allow these men to get away with so many things. Meanwhile, they're sitting there acting like he had a reason to be upset and like Phaedra was in the wrong, like he didn't do anything wrong in the situation. The problem with the whole thing was because Apollo and Shireen started running their mouths. Shireen was so bothered by Check that for a second I thought maybe she had a history with Check by the way she was talking about him and the things that he was doing when Check was supposedly supposed to be close to you guys. To me, Shireen herself needed to shut up because you helped break up a marriage. So don't try to come up here talking about Faye this and Faye that, when to be honest, Faye doesn't owe any one of them anything. So Andy brings up Shireen filing for divorce, and Quad takes the time to make this, a little quick dig by saying, yeah, we saw sometimes things don't work. The person swaps out the woman, but it's the same person, that he is the same person that he was when he was married to the first wife. In this instant, it is true. Apollo did some things to Phaedra that Phaedra came out and said later on that he tried to deny. Now we have Shireen making some of those same accusations. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And I do believe, even though I hate rumors, that there's some truth to it. So T, of course, understands what Quad just did. Right? She feels like she's the exception to the rule, though, that she, has a good man. Like we can't see that she has the same man. Only difference to me with T and Quad is that she's in the earlier stages and she's not as argumentative as Quad was. I feel like the problem that I have with T, though, is that T is losing some of her spark. Now, she looked a lot better on this reunion stage. She doesn't look as sad as she was in some of her YouTube videos and the clips that I've seen. She, though, to me, seems like she shuts down a lot when it comes to certain things, and that she's going to stand by her man. Andy says that he's missing the voice of Phaedra, so he hands Simone Phaedra's head on a stick and asks her to start imitating her. She does. The ladies laugh. Next, we get to talking about Quad and her return and how this year was much better than the last. We see her package and her introduction of her man. We get to, replay some of her monologues. Dramatic or not, it is her feelings. I understand that a lot of times Quad is over the top, but Quad is over the top because, like we saw in the clip for next week, Quad is hurt by the way that the ladies were okay with hanging out with the guy who allegedly abused her. Now, I'm saying alleged, but they both admitted that there was some exchanges there. So I really don't need to say alleged. Quad says that she doesn't really like to talk about some of the things that happened in the past because she still is a work in progress, especially with Simone, but she loves where they are now. And my question is, where are you guys? Because the moment that Quad says something that Simone doesn't like, it's right back into the same recording that we always hear about Quad when it comes from Simone. So Andy asks Simone about not inviting Quad to Whitnick. And Simone says, she was upset that Quad was saying that she was owed an apology for Napa because she didn't feel like she owed her an apology. I disagree. The problem with Dr. Simone is that she is extremely stubborn. Dr. Simone, in my opinion, did not have a reason to treat Quad the way she did at Napa. There were other people in the group, like Toya, that to me had a legitimate reason to be upset. Nothing that Quad has done to Dr. Simone warrants how Simone responds to Quad a lot of times. Dr. Simone is talking about how long they've been friends and how she can't understand why Quad didn't tell them about King. And I'm wondering how delusional Dr. Simone is. Simone says she was with King for an entire year and she didn't say anything. And I just feel like Simone will never be satisfied. It is not Quad's business to tell her the ins and outs of her relationship. It is not, what am I trying to say? It's not Quad's responsibility to tell her the ins and outs of her relationship, especially in a group that was hanging out with the guy who harmed her. Why is it a different set of rules when it comes to Quad's feelings versus everyone else's? Why are her feelings often dismissed? Simone, you're hanging out with the girl who is now with her ex-husband, and you're sitting there kikiing with her and siding with her and holding her hand and getting on your knees and doing all that stuff when I don't feel like you give Quad that same energy. You're the same person who didn't even want Cecil to have any type of dealings whatsoever with his ex-best female friend, but you can't understand why Quad feels the way that Quad feels and why Quad may feel like you're not a safe space. Toya claims that her only issue is that she doesn't like the narrative that they brought Quad to Napa to get rid of her. Well, why else did you bring her there? Quad says you asked me to leave. Toya says they never planned to do that to her knowledge, but I feel like they did. Y'all went to a whole restaurant, sat down and had a meeting talking about the core group, and that core group didn't involve Quad. If you really were trying to talk about the core group and not ice out Quad, then wouldn't she have been a part of that discussion? Andy tries to move on, but Quad's like, no, we need to talk about this because they're like, what's the challenge here? Like, what's the issue? Simone says, the challenge is that you act like we have ganged up on you, that we have mistreated you. You've taken on this sympathetic role, Quad. You've been giving us your butt to kiss for years. It's the same thing over and over again. And as she's saying this, I can't help but notice how the camera shows T, and T is smiling. She's enjoying the show, just like she was enjoying it in Napa. Bottom line to this entire thing, I agree with Quad in this moment, which is that they did gang up on her. They did try to ice her out, and they did so in like passive aggressive ways. You're planning this trip to Napa. Phaedra's supposed to ride with Quad, and y'all are laughing at the fact that Phaedra came up with some lie so that she didn't have to get on the plane with Quad because Phaedra saw that y'all were icing her out. You're planning this trip to Napa, but you didn't even have a room, Toya, for her. So what exactly were you trying to do? Um, the conversation, as Quad said, wasn't, one on one. She felt like she was bombarded, that they could have done a one off rather than sitting her at the table and all piling on her. She says, I sat there and I sat at that table while everybody had something to say. I did something that Phaedra wouldn't do even today. And it's true. Toya, the subject of Toya saying that the apologies weren't authentic comes up. She feels like a lot of the group, like Dr. Jackie, just didn't want to go back and forth with Quad, so they apologized. Jackie says it was sincere, but it wasn't sincere because she later comes back and says like she didn't feel like going back and forth with her. I personally don't care about all that. Heavenly says hers was, and she points out that based on the way that things were, she, unlike Simone, does not blame her for not telling her anything about King. Whereas Simone can't see that she is the same person who is later going to be all up in Quad's face in the back room, being aggressive with her. The same thing that y'all claim T has done, you now going to do it with Quad. Why is it that every single reunion in the past few years, you've had an issue with Quad? Because y'all ended it on a good note. I said it in my video the other day. Dr. Simone does not see it for Quad. Quad, I need you to understand this is your coworker. Put her in the right box. Quad says, Simone, at the time when I was dating him, you and I were not even talking. I didn't owe you my business. Things are different now to the point where if anything happens in my life, you will know. I need Simone to focus more on her life and her sons and her husband and less on what's going on in these other ladies' lives. There's a lot of things that happen on a day-to-day basis with myself and others that I don't go running around telling all my friends. I just feel like you're asking for a lot. We then get one of the viewers' comments saying, how is it that y'all expected for Quad to introduce you to her man? If you want to meet the king, then you best get right with the queen. They joke around saying that maybe it's something that Quad or somebody she knows submitted. Another viewer question asks about Tisha saying that she thinks that Quad is jealous of, the relationship that she has with Dr. Little. And T, I really feel like believes this. T feels like Quad has been watching her. Quad says you wouldn't be on the show if it weren't for me. And T feels like she wouldn't be on the show if it wasn't for her husband because Dr. G is the medicine. I don't agree with that. I personally think that Quad is on the show because of Quad's personality, and Quad had a following, and Quad was friends with Mariah. Like Quad, even though they fell out, owes a lot to Mariah. So she tells her that she hopes that King has a fleet of ambulances to keep Quad relevant. Quad is old news. She's a non-mother effing factor. And I see Jackie cringe as it's being said. Contessa does a little bit too. I don't know why T doesn't understand that even though these ladies act a hot mess, they're allowed to do it. They don't like to see her do it. And her reads to me are clear that she watches a lot of reality TV. I hate that non-mother effing factor thing because I automatically think of Evelyn Lozada. I try not to go in on T too much, but I think that she's in denial because if this was really about Dr. Little, then he would have been on the show even after things went wrong with him and Quad. He only came back, in my opinion, to rub things in Quad's face, but he's not ever going to admit that. It's just his actions that show it to me. So a viewer's question comes up about the Rolls Royce and how why would Quad be jealous when her ex is riding around in the little Cooper versus the Rolls Royce. T says allegedly. She says that Quad is fake. Quad says, will you come across this country? T calls Quad Memphis Beverly Hillbilly. Everybody laughs. I don't know if they're laughing because of how funny they thought it was or because out of all people, You calling her country, it's childish, y'all. I think that's why I'm at the point with these reunions where I don't write as much stuff as I used to, because it's just a whole bunch of cattiness from women who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and I don't know how old Dr. Jackie is, but these are women of a certain age, and y'all are all acting like kids. So the subject of King and Quad's sex life comes up. She's loving her 15 times. Dr. Heavenly's like, yeah, when you go from 2 years with nothing, you're going to go to 15. Dr. Jackie tells her, like, you can't be doing all of that when you get pregnant. You're going to have to calm that down. And we find out that Dr. Jackie is going to be Quad's doctor when it comes to her fertility stuff. Me personally, I don't feel like it's going to be all of that. I think that 15, maybe in the beginning, hopefully over time, it's calmed down a little bit. But yeah, I don't really care to talk about it. So it's time for Toya. Andy brings up how Toya kept it real this season, and everybody needs a Toya because she holds the people accountable. Andy puts, her telling the truth to the test by testing her. He asks her questions like, who has had the most work done? She says Heavenly. Who needs to fire their stylist? She says Tisha. Heavenly chimes in saying Simone. Most likely not to tell the truth, she says Tisha. And that's because of everything that's going on social media. They bring up some of Toya's comments on Eugene, like her saying that he wasn't her type, and that she could have made him popular back in the day, and how good King looks without his shirt, and things of that nature. And the ladies feel like that's their dynamic. As long as Eugene is okay with it, then they're good. We find out that Toya has purchased a new home. Andy points out that this is like the 4th house that she's been in. I think Toya said it's the 5th. Dr. Simone says this is not a rental. And Toya makes it known that she didn't move into anybody else's house. Now, I think that was a dig at T, but I'm not sure. T says she owns her own home. I don't know what the situation is with the deed and how that all worked out, but whatever. T and Toya get into it. T feels like Toya wanted her to go to war with Quad because of the issues that she had with Quad. Toya says she doesn't even talk like that. Toya wants proof saying that she didn't need T's help for that. Her and Quad have been going at it for 6 years. T tells Quad that both Heavenly and Toya have been instigators of issues with them. Here's my thoughts on it. I do not think that Toya said it that way, but if I'm being completely real, I do think that they wanted her to go against Quad. Heavenly made it a point to hang out with the girl, to post her. They all did. The only person who I didn't see overly extending themselves with her last season was Dr. Jackie. But we saw Simone hanging out with them. We saw Heavenly hanging out with T. And we saw Toya hanging out with her. She then says to Toya, you said that we shared the same penis. Toya says, well, you did. And you see, Quad making a face. Heavenly and Quad are having their own talks, and Heavenly talking about tasting something, whatever else. I said, okay, I'm definitely not writing all that down. Toya's like, I was nice to you. I didn't want you to go against Quad. When you were crying, I was there for you. You and I have nothing in common. You didn't have a problem with me until I was cool with Quad. It's really another segment that I don't care about. Especially with Quad feeling a way about being escorted out of the bachelorette party when it made no sense for Quad to be there in the first place. Quad says, somewhere down the line, see, you fell for it. And it's true, she did. I think that they did have her come into this group thinking that she was going to help ice out Quad. I think that they pumped up her head. I think that they made her feel like she was the better woman and all those other things, just based off of the things that they were saying about the situation. Meanwhile, they were using her. They were using her for views, for the drama of it all. They were. One thing about Heavenly is going to produce on and off camera. So Dr. Simone, as they're going back and forth, kneels down, telling her, I'm holding your hands. I'm coming at you as a big sister. Let's try to be open and real about the conversation today. Let's not make this a battle. Why? What else does T need to say? It's all been said, unless she has something else she's not telling us. So we get to Dr. Contessa's segment. Ugh. She says since being off television, her and Scott, they've been better. They've done the work. They went to therapy and it's made their marriage stronger. Contessa feels like Heavenly dragged things out and said things that she's was wrong. Heavenly says, I don't know who you are. I don't know when you're telling the truth. Contessa, in my opinion, made it appear as if she had DV situations going on with Dr. Scott. Heavenly runs her mouth too much. Heavenly needs to stop speaking on anything involving any of the couples on the stage and their marriages. Talk about your own stuff. Contessa came back to this program acting like we don't recall all the things that went on, and to be honest, she didn't address them. It was like none of it ever happened. But you're so upset at Heavenly for saying things when you came back on the show, which we've seen far worse. Her agreeing with comments and her saying, do you think Contessa has been aid? And she says mentally and verbally yes. That should not turn into something completely different where it's this whole back and forth that it was. And I'm not trying to act like Heavenly isn't wrong, because Heavenly needs to learn to shut up. Long story short, as Toy said, both of them made digs at each other, but neither one of them see the part that they played. Heavenly doesn't see that she often causes issues because she doesn't shut her mouth, because she's so worried about getting a coin from this show and producing and saying things out the side of her neck, but she can't take when it's said back to her. Contessa has a problem with the fact that Heavenly took it as far as she did, and she didn't like the whole your mama comment, because that comes up in her saying F your mama, and she said, I didn't say F your mama, I said F you. Then the rumors about what Contessa said about Damon having a biracial baby comes up, and their kids not liking her, and Toya points out how they both have hit below the belt, and they have. The question is then asked if people have heard rumors about Dr. Damon. Everybody is quiet at first. Contessa says nobody ever heard any rumors about Damon. Quiet says she hasn't. Dr. Simone says, well, a lady did come up to me and say that she knows Dr. Damon and that he asked for her number. Toya claims that she's heard some stuff too. I personally don't like the whole rumors being repeated thing, but this obviously is about to be a problem, especially because Damon still hasn't let go of the stuff that was said where people didn't come to his defense last season about the cheating. As I said, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I don't know if Dr. Damon has cheated or not. He's a Q, which already has me keeping my eye on him because I got some Q friends and I know how they get down. I personally will hope that he didn't cheat on Dr. Heavenly and that he doesn't have a baby. But there's power in the things that you say to one another. And you all, a lot of them, they go too far to the point where I don't see how you could be friends when you go as deep as you go. It just doesn't seem right to me, but we'll see what happens. If there's something that I left out that you want to talk about, as I said before, please feel free to put it down below. Thank you so much for joining me. Like the video as it helps. We only got 2 more of these left, and I'm so glad that this is going to be over. I hope they come back with something better next season, but we'll see. Anyways, thanks again, you guys. Until next time, peace.